So anyway, the two problems first are, the first problem is the fear for physical safety, and the families saying that they fear, particularly for their teenage kids, being and the police. And remember in the 90s when Mayor Giuliani said that he cleaned up New York City and the city seemed to be more stable for a while until 9/11 happened. And remember all that? Well, that's part of this in New York anyway. And the other issue, besides the physical safety, which is one issue, the other issue is, of course, economic, and the fact that the COVID crisis, the pandemic, has fallen more on African Americans and Latinos also than it has on white people. And it's also fallen, but it's also other things. It's fallen more on people with large families who live in large groups, who don't have the ability to, the privacy that I have as a single gay man. People in my situation are not coming down with it very often, and have not been nearly as badly affected as people who worked in service industries and who lost their jobs in bars and restaurants and retail and all kinds of things, and are really hurting. A disproportionate portion of those are black or African American. So again, you've got the physical safety is one problem, and the economy is another problem. I've always been one who is a lot more concerned about the economic unfairness and the economic inequality as something that actually drives everything. And that privilege, it isn't always white privilege, but privilege certainly can be, can lead to one having advantages in life that they didn't earn, and becoming in a position of influence over things that they perhaps don't completely deserve. So I developed this. A lot of us, we've developed this idea, thinking over the years, that part of it is economic, part of it is about money, and part of it is about something that's non-monetary. I used to call it paying your dues, but I guess a better term now is social credit worthiness, which is a bad word. That's, of course, we know the social credit system in China. But the tech companies themselves are kind of practicing a kind of social credit worthiness. So then, my own feeling has always been that social credit worthiness is a matter of evaluating the individual, not the group that the individual belongs to. Although being a member of a certain race may add to advantage or disadvantage that a person has had, it's not usually as important as a lot of other things. Their parents, the breaks they got. The military draft was a good example, because back, we used to have student deferments back until 1969, and people who got good grades in school, and they were usually white kids. So yeah, you're getting into the issue of segregated schools again, and even redlining. Better neighborhoods, they were more likely to get the deferments. They were more likely not to be in combat roles if they were drafted, as I was not. They were less likely to die in Vietnam. So again, you're back the draft that we had during the Vietnam War, when there were a whole series of protests, again takes us back to the idea of physical safety. In fact, I think it was Kennedy, Bob Kennedy, or Jack Kennedy, one time actually said they didn't believe in an all-volunteer army because it would be an all-black army. And he said that back in 1962, I think, or something.